Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Rose Jeffrey, the Corporate Secretary of Harlem Community Development Corporation. I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting this morning and ask that you please mute your phone and keep it muted unless you're speaking. For the record, before we begin, I'll be taking a roll call of the directors to ensure we have a quorum present. If you're on the line, please say present when you hear your name. Maritari Arce.
I am here. Good morning.
Michelle Cruz.
Present.
Thank you. Shauna Harmonga.
Present.
Okay. Ava Rice. Lamond May.
Present.
Frida Foster.
Present.
Yolanda Ford.
Present.
Gabrielle Lewenstein.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you. Dana Reed.
Present.
Mary Ellie Sanchez.
Good morning, I'm present.
Terrell Brock.
Good morning, everyone. I'm present.
Keisha Sutton James.
Present.
Deneen Brown.
Present.
Thank you. And staff members, Eunice Jackson.
I'm present.
Holly Light.
Present.
Curtis Archer.
Present.
Destiny Burns.
Present.
Philip McGuire.
Present.
And Rob Jones, who will be presenting.
Present.
Thank you all. We now have a
Also,
forum.
Eric Cuello from Councilmember Levine's office here.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much. I'll now turn the meeting over to Frida Foster, the acting chairperson for today's meeting. Frida?
Thank you, Rose. Good morning, everyone. My name is Frida Foster, and I'm honored to serve as chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting for the directors of Harlem Community Development Corporation for Friday, October 16th, 2020. Before we get started, I'll ask that everyone please mute your phones until you are ready to speak. Also, for the record, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin. I'd like to note for the record that due to public health concerns and as authorized by an executive order of the governor, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on today's agenda item by submitting their written comments by 5:30 p.m. yesterday to hcdcboard@esd.ny.gov. I'd like to finally state for the record that no comments were received from the public. The directors have received the written materials in advance of today's meeting, and they are free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether anyone has a potential conflict of interest with respect to the agenda items. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you recuse yourself from any discussion or vote regarding the item. Is there anyone that needs to recuse themselves? Hearing none, that has been recorded, that no one should have a recusal. And now to our first order of business. The approval of the minutes for the directors meeting that was held on June 26, 2020 and August 3rd, 2020. May I have a motion for approval?
Hi, this is Michelle Cruz. I was present at the August 3rd meeting, and it wasn't noted on the minutes.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle. I'm sorry. This is Rose. The reason you were not counted in the quorum was because after we went onto the meeting for the record, you were not present to answer when I called the roll call.
Okay, I was here. I heard my name, but that's fine. I was here. I was present. But okay, no problem.
Okay. 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 Is there a motion for approval for the minutes for June 26th and August 3rd, 2020?
This is Dana Reed. So moved.
Is there a second?
This is Yolanda Ford. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. That will be submitted for the record. We will skip agenda item 2 for now. So agenda item 3 on the agenda will now be presented by Mr. Robert Jones, ESD's Vice President for Contract Administration. This is a request to adopt the revised guidelines for the use, awarding, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts. Robert, when you're ready, please begin.
Good morning, directors. My name is Robert Jones, Vice President of Contract Administration at Empire State Development. This morning, the board is being asked to adopt the revised guidelines for the use, awarding, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts as mandated by Section 2879 of Public Authorities Law. These guidelines were previously adopted in July 2019 by the HCDC directors. There have been no substantive changes to executive orders and discretion to public authorities in the past year. However, in the past year, the State Finance Law, Subdivision 6 of Section 163 was amended to increase the threshold amount from $200,000 to $500,000 for discretionary buying without a formal consent process for small businesses, New York State certified minority and women-owned business enterprises, and service-disabled veteran-owned enterprises or businesses. ESD staff from the legal department, contracts administration, and finance departments reviewed the guidelines and incorporated the state finance law changes, added a section to define pre-qualified list, a separate section for conflicts of interest, and made minor revisions across the guidelines for clarity and consistency. On March the 26th, 2020, the ESD board adopted the revised guidelines, the 2020 guidelines, which are designed to govern procurements by ESD and its subsidiaries such as HCDC. A copy of the 2020 guidelines is attached. Approval is sought for the adoption by the HCDC directors for the 2020 guidelines. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Robert. Now, I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking, and at this time, we'll take some questions and comments from the directors on this item. Opportunity going once, opportunity going twice. All right, hearing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval.
This is Arbor Rice. I make a motion to approve the presentation as made.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. May I have a second?
Keisha Sutton James, for a second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Okay. The next item will be presented by Eunice Jackson, Esquire, the approval of for property disposition guidelines, appointment of a contracting officer, and authorization to take related actions. Eunice, please begin when you're ready.
Good morning. This is Eunice Jackson. I'm a senior counsel at Empire State Development, and I provide legal services to HCDC, a subsidiary of Empire State Development. The directors are asked to readopt the property disposition guidelines in the same form as those adopted by the New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development, or ESD. The Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009 mandates that public benefit corporations such as ESD and its subsidiaries annually prepare and comply with guidelines regarding the disposition of property. ESD, the parent of HCDC, reviewed the guidelines, found them satisfactory, and readopted them in March of 2020. The guidelines require the appointment of a contracting officer. ESD reappointed as its contracting officer its Vice President, Contracts Administration. The directors are requested to readopt the property disposition guidelines reviewed and adopted by ESD and reappoint as contracting officer ESD's Vice President of Contracts Administration. Thank you. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Eunice. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on this item?
This is Keisha. What's the name of ESD's VP of Contract Administration?
You just heard from him, Rob Jones. He presented the item right before this one.
Got it. Thank you. I missed the title before. Thank you.
Right. No, that's okay. The guidelines, we write that name in because it allows anyone sitting in that position to do it without having to come back to the board each time. So we don't
Understood.
specifically name the person, just the title.
Understood.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for approval, please.
Yolanda Ford, I make a motion for approval to readopt guidelines and the adopted reappointment of the ESD contract.
Thank you, Yolanda. May I have a second?
I second. Deneen Brown.
Thank you, Deneen. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Now, circling back to agenda item 2, Destiny Burns will now present a request for authorization to amend a contract for construction administration services in connection with the Victoria Theater redevelopment project and authorization to take related actions. Destiny, when you're ready, please begin.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This item is to amend the contract for construction administration services in connection with the Victoria Theater redevelopment project, which is in the final stages of transforming a vacant landmark on 125th Street into a 27-story mixed-use development featuring Marriott Renaissance Hotel, affordable housing, retail, and cultural art space, which is HCDC's cultural unit that will be managed by the Apollo Theater Foundation. The contract is with Costo Greenwood Architects, or KGA, a New York State certified WBE. This amendment will allow KGA, on behalf of HCDC, to continue to oversee the progress of the project and integration and completion of the cultural unit. Prior to this contract, KGA's participation in the design and planning phase of the project was instrumental in ensuring the appropriate acoustic attenuation for the 2 small theaters within the cultural unit. The initial contract, effective July 2019, was a $200,000 discretionary contract with a minority or woman-owned business enterprise allowed by our procurement guidelines for contracts under $250,000. The contract was extended further to an amount not to exceed $249,000, set to expire July 31st, 2020. This amendment will increase the total contract amount by up to $160,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $409,000. and extend the contract term by 1 year, set to expire July 31st, 2020, after the expected completion of the cultural unit and the entire project. Today, the directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to KGA and for authorization to enter into an amendment to the agreement with KGA, nunc pro tunc, to extend the contract term and increase the contract value as just described, and take related action. Thank you. I'll entertain any questions that the directors may have on this item, project. No questions? Okay. All right, hearing no questions, I will entertain a motion for approval. May I have a motion for approval on this item?
This is Dana Reed. I move to approve.
Thank you, Dana. May I have a second?
This is Arbor Rice, and I second.
Thank you very much, Ira. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Final item is for information only. No vote will be required. Philip McGuire from ESD's Real Estate Division will provide an update on the Victoria Theater redevelopment project. Mr. McGuire, please begin when you're ready.
Thanks all. This is Phil McGuire. I'm the senior architect in the real estate design and planning department at ESD. I've been with ESD for about 1.5 years, working with the Victoria Theater development team since I got there. I just wanted to give a quick update. Destiny thought this would be a great time to fill everybody in. It would be great to be giving you guys a tour on site, but thanks to COVID, unfortunately, we can't. Schedule-wise, I have a bunch of pictures that got mailed out that I'll flip through quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions at any point. Before we get to the photos, I'd like to give an update on the schedule. The residential component is in its final stages of wrapping up. The developer is in the process of getting temporary certificate of occupancies on a floor-by-floor basis. It's a tremendous effort with the Department of Buildings, and they're successfully pushing all the paperwork and expect to have TCO by next month on all of the residential floors. You will be seeing shortly the restoration of the sidewalk on 126th Street and sort of reopening of that the street over there and the construction barricade coming down, much to everybody's relief. And the residential lobby will be visible from 126th Street very, very shortly. The affordable housing lottery will be getting up to speed within the next month, and that is going to be run by HPD. And the market rate units, the developer has seen an expression of interest for some of those units. They're not doing a heavy marketing on those units right now. They're assuming that most people will not move between Thanksgiving and the end of the year. So they expect to have move-ins on the market rate in early January. For the hotel component, they are expecting temporary certificate of occupancy by January of 2021. And the hotel opening is pending COVID. They're hoping for a spring opening, but obviously the hotel business is heavily impacted right now. On the cultural unit, we're aiming for a temporary certificate of occupancy for April 2021. We've been working incredibly closely with the Apollo team on all of their technical needs and their fit out. They don't expect to take possession of their space until July 2021. Even though it will likely be ready earlier, they will not take possession. They will spend the summer moving into their office space and sort of shaking out and testing all the technical aspects of the theaters over the summer in preparation for a fall 2021 season. And I don't know if, Destiny, should I go through, just kind of flip through the pictures that we put together? Is that an appropriate way to?
This morning, Rose sent around a photo stack. If you have access to it, I think that would be a good way to at least get some idea of the progress of the project.
Before you jump into that, I have a quick question since you just referenced the Apollo, and maybe it'll give people a minute to pull it up. How are things going with bringing on the additional cultural institutions?
I'm sorry, who?
Excuse me, just one moment. Can you please identify yourself? Who is the person who's speaking?
Yep, sorry, this is Keisha Sutton-James.
Hi, Keisha. So the Apollo has a memo of understanding with National Black Theater and Classical Theater of Harlem. So they're working out the details of having those two groups move in as cultural partners who are sharing the office space and the theater space.
And I just want to add one thing. The theater space will also be available to other cultural partners that will not have office space, including Jazzmobile and Harlem Art Alliance.
That is my understanding.
Thank you. I just say, I'm looking at the pictures right now. There seems to have been some great progress. I particularly like the restoration on the ceiling here. That looks beautiful. Yeah.
So really quickly, to give everybody a in light of giving everybody a real walkthrough, I had the team send me some photos of the interior of the theater space, and it doesn't really photo very well because it's just drywall right now. So there's really not a lot to see, and I didn't think it would be very meaningful for anybody on this call to look at those photos. But the other areas that could be of interest are the historic preservation components. So on the facade, we have a quick elevation on page 2 of what this restored terracotta facade is supposed to look like. And then pages 3 and 4 are progress photos. So it's been a really interesting process. They are redoing all the steel lintels and all of the work on this facade that would be required to keep it in good repair. This is typical maintenance to this kind of masonry building to replace lintels. And these terracotta pieces have been carefully removed and salvaged, and some pieces have actually not been able to be reused. Those pieces were recast from a factory in England, and all of those pieces are now on site. So putting the facade back together, all the pieces are on site, either the salvaged or the replacement pieces. If you look at page 4, this is a photo of the parapet, and that beyond is the new roof. And this is taken from the scaffolding standing over the sidewalk. And all those balustrade pieces are brand new. And you can kind of see, if you look closely, what the new terracotta is and what the old terracotta is. And this will get a new coping across the top. You see they're all tied together with some stainless steel, corrosive resistant stainless steel. And this will all get tied back together. So a first-class effort on the facade restoration. And then we're pretty excited about the marquee. You can see on page 5, there's a restoration of the former Victoria Blade sign. That sign is has what's called chaser lights. You know, it's kind of a 42nd Street thing, like the lights move in sequence. And then the letters Victoria are outlined in lights as well. That is a static historic sign. The marquee sign is faced with LED. So that's actually an LED board with another LED board underneath a thin strip. And then the former ticket booth, you can see on page 5, is being replaced as well in the center of the building at the sidewalk, just inside the property line. And that, instead of being a ticket booth that a person would sit in, is actually going to have LED screens as well. So they've taken this historic context, and the State Historic Preservation Office has permitted sort of an updating of new technology within this historically approved context. So I think with this marquee and then the Apollo existing marquee at their building, I think there's going to be a lot of activity and a life. It's going to be pretty exciting and dynamic addition to 125th Street. You know, and then page 6 is actually, I just took a snip of the working drawing, the shop drawing from the sign manufacturer. And all of these, where it says Victoria Theater, all of that is a changeable LED display. It'll be very dynamic. It will advertise both the hotel, the retail, and the cultural unit offerings. Moving on quickly to page 7, there is the center ground floor lobby is getting restored. There was unfortunately not a lot of historic fabric to retain, except for the decorative plaster ceiling. So on page 7 and 8, you can see the decorative plaster ceiling in mid-restoration, and these walls in this corridor will get a new stone finish, and there's arches with this kind of a distressed mirror that goes in there. The floor had been terrazzo and then was covered with mosaic. Everything's being pulled out, and a terrazzo, the floor, is being relayed to match the exact original design, which has a geometry that sort of reflects what's happening in the ceiling. So it's pretty exciting. These two photos are the sort of raw plaster as it's being restored. And if you flip up to the last 3 photos, 9, 10, and 11, this is the ceiling, the second floor ceiling of the lobby. I don't know if everybody remembers the space, but when you get to the back of the lobby, there's an ornamental staircase up to a balcony, and there's this ornamental ceiling above you. So the lobby opens up and becomes a double height space when you get into the middle of the site. And so right now, these skilled craftsmen are standing on a temporary scaffolding. That's actually a double height space. And you can see this grid, this open grid in the middle of the space will have translucent glass in those squares, and there are lights above that, and this is the recreation of the sort of faux skylight. That all of this is the original design. And then the last page is the sample section of restored ceiling that is done. And beautiful chocolate colored with some really great gold. All of these colors were historically matched, carefully sampled, and you can see here it's the start of a beautiful restoration. Any questions?
Just a comment, it's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. I lived in Harlem my whole life and I've never been in there. And so this is my first, this is Keisha, my first time seeing inside, you know, what it looks like.
Keisha, this is Frida. I completely echo those comments. When you said that you didn't think the photos would do us any good, that couldn't be more further from the truth. The photos are great, especially since, you know, we haven't, many of us have never been inside of there before. We've just seen pictures. So to see these pictures the progression of the work is pretty exciting. And for me, my office is right next door to the Victoria, so from the actual breaking of the ground, I feel very, very close to this project. I remember the dust in my office and everything, so I just feel like I'm becoming one with the Victoria Theater. So many of us are Harlemites, and, we work, live, or play here. So, this development is and has been a major part of this board for many years. So whatever updates you're able to bring us, please don't think that we're not interested, because I believe that I speak for the board when I say we definitely are.
Sure. I'm glad to hear that, and I think it's important to point out too that this sequence of interior spaces, the historic fabric, these are public spaces. If you're going into the hotel, or if you're going into the theater, you're passing through this space. So this will be accessible to the public, whenever the hotel or the theater are open, which is, around the clock. So these are public spaces, which I think is important to note.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other questions or comments for this presentation?
Just a comment. This is Curtis Archer. Phil, I'd like to thank you always for providing me with the information, because as you know, I am in the community, I am the face, and so I'm constantly asked questions about the project. So I thank you for always keeping me informed and up to date. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Okay. Last chance for a comment or a question. We'll move on.
These look great. This is Maritere Arce, and I just wanted to say this is great. I remember, how long ago was it that we went in there for the first time, Curtis?
Many years. Many years.
I don't want to date myself, but...
You want me to tell you? I can tell you when our initial RFP went out. Which was
I'm very privileged to have seen this from idea to now almost a reality, and see this jewel be brought back to my community. So thank you for all of you.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but can you tell me who you are, what your name?
Oh, Maritere, this is Maria Teresa.
Oh, Maria, okay.
So,
all right.
So,
yes.
we also wondered about the water fountains. I remember at the time we were told that they would be placed back. I'm guessing it's decorative elements more than actual water fountains, but those were beautiful. So
I couldn't quite hear the question.
Phil, this is Eunice. At the time. So I'm just wondering if you guys were able to.
Phil, this is Eunice. That predated your involvement, so you may, and I may be a little bit foggy in the details, but my recollection is that we're not restoring the fountain, and when they worked with SHPO, they determined that it really wasn't part of the original theater. But even if it had been, it was not. They weren't able to restore that. If you recall, they had to take quite a few things out of the space while they did the construction, and I don't think that particular fountain was able to be saved.
Got it. And Eunice, you have the day of the first RFP, correct? Or
yeah,
the year.
In this RFP, I wasn't around, but I think it was 2005.
Yeah.
That is correct, Eunice. Right.
Oh, wait. Greatness takes time. So there we go. All right. Are there any other questions or comments from the directors? All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Eunice. Thank you, everyone, on this really informative update for the Victoria Theater. We will continue to wait with bated breath for its opening in 2021. Is there any additional business? All right. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Keisha, so moved.
Thank you, Keisha. May I have a second?
This is Dana Ray, second.
Brown, second. All right, fantastic. All in favor? I'm going to say, yeah, there we go. All right. No opposed, I assume. And thank you, everyone, for your participation in today's meeting. This meeting of the directors of the Harlem Community Development Corporation is adjourned. Stay safe, everyone, and have a good weekend.
Great meeting.
Thank you too, Frida. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.